13.
Okay.
All right, we are live. So, Shiva, thanks for joining me, man. Last minute.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I just want to dive right in. We have another gentleman who might join us from Canada. It's like 9 a.m. there, so who knows? He's still looking for syrup in the back of the fridge or something for his pancakes. But we're going to talk about Kaseya acquiring Datto, because what the heck, man?
It makes sense. Datto stock price has been pretty stagnant. I think one of the telling things to look at is Dave Sobel put out a video last week.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean,
almost like he divined it.
I'm not gonna lie, it hasn't been stagnant. It hasn't been good at all.
Stone in the water, dropping to the bottom.
Basically, yeah. So it's interesting though, because Datto, I feel like most of the MSPs that use Datto, we're not going to talk about pricing and contracts right now. I want to talk about like the quality of the product.
We should talk about contracts later.
We will. But okay. Like when you look at the quality of the products by Datto, like I have like a warm and fuzzy feeling about their products and services. Yeah. See? So how do you feel about Kaseya though?
Kaseya, I've been harsh on Kaseya in the past. And they did something recently. They went onto the Ransomware Files podcast with Jeremy Kirk, and their new CISO was on, and I think he was as transparent as he was legally allowed to be. And so they took a really nice step in that direction.
Okay.
My concern with this entire consolidation of the market is centered on antitrust / monopolies. We are now going to be a 2, maybe 3-party player. You have ConnectWise, you have Enable, and you have Kaseya. Now, unless I'm mistaken here, Kaseya and Enable have tremendous backing from Insight Partners. Insight Partners has a very diverse cybersecurity as well as IT service provider holdings. But we're going to limit our options. And again, I don't want this to be about me bashing Kaseya, because I've given them a hard run of it in the past, and I think they're doing some really cool things right now. But looking at IT Glue, how much development has there been there? And with a product like RMM, for Kaseya, I think it makes perfect sense. You're buying an RMM that is an actual platform as opposed to an instance. And if I were Kaseya, I would transition all of VSA. I think it is. That's their RMM.
Yes.
I would move to the Datto RMM platform.
You know, I don't disagree with that. So I have some speculation and expectations. Dom, what's happening, man? Matt, glad to see you guys.
So, boys. Hey, Matt, you want to come in on this? Or Dom?
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you guys have questions, comments, let us know in the chat. And if any of you are, we'll say, qualified to speak on this, or at least as qualified as Shiva and I.
I'm a ditch digger. I don't know what you're talking about. Qualified in me to talk on this? Sorry.
Then, we can invite you in. All right, so here's my question. Insight Partners is the venture capital firm that owns Kaseya. And it seems as though Kaseya is purchasing Datto. How does that all work? You were in finance, as you call it.
It's simple. They have the financial backing from Insight, but there are also a lot of other players that are putting money into this. But it's just another acquisition.
So why did Kaseya purchase Datto and not Insight?
Maybe Kaseya is going to be the holding company for everything MSP.
Okay.
Reverse IPO?
And I know that a lot of this is speculation. Okay, so I get it, guys. All right, so if Datto's going to be its own company, it seems like this is going to be different from the Enable thing that exists these days. Remember when it was like SolarWinds PSA, or I'm sorry, SolarWinds RMM, and that was the GFI Hound Max, whatever it was, Hound Dog GFI Max thing, Logic Now.
I think this was different because the Datto platform is in fact that, right? It's an actual platform. It's not instance based. They have pretty well built architecture behind it, and I don't think there's another RMM platform out there that is as good or secure as Datto RM is perceived to be, and perhaps is.
Okay, so
I use them. I love them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think most of the partners that work with Datto really love working with the company, and that's rare these days. Even when the company was mostly owned by venture capital. What was that? That wasn't Thoma Bravo. That was a different one.
Yeah, but Thoma Bravo, Insight, they own a lot in the MSP space. That's a really good comment from Dom Kirby there. His personal business experience. That's probably going to be a reverse IPO, or they're going to re-IPO. I think that's where they're going to go. I think the private equity firms really want to get out of the MSP space. That's my personal opinion.
I think I agree with you to a point. I think PE money had its run, they had its fun, and I feel like it was probably slower than the GMEs of the world, right? Remember all the stocks that people love to run for a couple days and then it tanks and then there's a bunch of people holding the bag. The PE money, the venture capital firms, I think that now is a good time for them to get out before they're holding the bag. Look at cybersecurity these days.
I don't think Matt's wrong there either, that the Datto name persists. I got out of RMM back in July of 2021. For the most part, I don't use RMM anymore. I adopted Intune and some other products, and I am squarely out of the MSP vendor space, with exception to really my PSA. And that aspect is going to be dealt with at 12:30 today.
So I know you and I spoke privately about that. So you're looking at getting a different PSA. You're going to drop Autotask because of the acquisition by Kaseya.
Correct. And this is just for me. I'm not telling anyone out there to go drop anyone.
Okay. So I want to know your thoughts. Why are you making this decision?
I was an IT Glue user / subscriber. Haven't been for a few months. I've seen how everyone's complaining about its uptime or lack thereof, its innovation. And my biggest problem with a lot of these MSP vendors is that I don't think they focus enough on security.
I don't even know so yes, I agree. They don't focus on security as much as they probably should or could, or at least it doesn't seem as it's the forefront. But I think one of the other big issues that people have had with IT Glue for a while now is it just doesn't seem like they're focused on developing the product. I mean, that's fair, right?
I'll tell you where my real fear is on this whole acquisition thing. And based on what I've seen with the IT Glue, the Rocket Cyber. You remember Rocket Cyber? It was a managed SOC once upon a time.
Yeah, they were great for about 2 months.
Where my concern
I just don't know where they are now.
Is what's going to happen to Datto's back BCDR business. I'm heavily deployed with Datto BCDRs.
How many BCDRs do you have?
More than one.
Less than
$1 million.
Okay, so
widespread.
Yeah, that is a widespread. So I'm going to narrow it down and say maybe around 5,000.
No, that's not me. That might be Brian, the world's #1 BAM. But
fair. Okay.
That's where my concern lies. But more so, RMM. I don't think it takes any effort to jump from one RMM to another. I moved from ConnectWise to Datto, sight unseen for Datto, after I had a really good conversation with their team, and I liked what they were doing. It took me less than a week to deploy Datto, with my scripts moved over, migrated, whatever, didn't matter. PSA, you're talking business process.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't think that, so if they're going to be a separate company that Kaseya just happens to own, you don't think that the PSA is going to continue to be as awesome as it currently is?
No.
Wow. Okay.
And again, this is my opinion. I could be completely wrong. But it's just that. And I probably am, right? I'm an idiot. Why? Don't listen to me. Go do your own thing. Don't use my words for your decisions.
So, Persian Knight, I don't think you have to worry about that. I think that would be foolish on their part. They would lose a bunch of customers by forcing people to use the RMM. Plus, I mean, right now, Datto has an RMM. They have the BCDR. They don't make you use Datto RMM, do they, Shiva?
No, they can let you go in, you buy whatever you want. They don't care. I mean, of course, like every one of us, we want 100% absorption. But
right.
The reality is you're going to mix and match and do what you think is best for you and your clients.
Right. And I think, again, speculation. I think requiring the use of certain products in order to get access to other products, I just think is a stupid maneuver. Okay, not that they're not capable of making stupid maneuvers. I'm not saying they would. I would just like to think they won't. Shiva, you look like you're dying to say something.
Can you throw Matt's comment up? This is what you and I were talking about just before we went live.
Yeah.
In a past acquisition, a company that was acquired by Kaseya changed their terms and conditions to mirror those of Kaseya for 3-year contracts. I can see that happening here again. Kaseya loves 3-year contracts.
They sure do. I don't love 3-year contracts.
I think PSC and RMM, a 1-year contract is fantastic. I think everything else should be a month-to-month.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that is exactly why I would do it too. Pump future revenue commitment and go IPO. So right now, Datto has, what do they have for Datto networking? I think you can do a 1, 3, or 5, right? I know
I don't
Persian
use their
Knight said
networking.
that.
I use their BCDR. I use their RMM. I use their PSA.
Sure, and that's Matt's personal opinion, not his employer's. We're gonna have a lot of disclaimers here.
Don't you love the fact that when you're doing an episode like this, you have to put that many disclaimers in here?
Like, look, just pretend this is like a prescription drug commercial, and
go for a walk in the park with a list of side effects.
Yes. Everyone's dancing. We're happy. We're having a great time. But yeah, if it's longer than 3 hours, go see your doctor. All right, so let's talk about this 3-year contract thing a little more, because I think this is something that we as MSPs have the ability to control. Believe it or not, I think we as MSPs have the ability to control this by simply saying, I'm not going to use your product if this is going to be your requirement. And if we as MSPs are willing to make that decision and say, look, I'm not going to use any products that require long-term commitments. Anything more than 1 year, I simply won't use.
So let me ask you a question here. What happens if, and I'm not saying this is what they're doing, disclaimer again, what happens if you get ConnectWise, you get Enable, and you get Kaseya in a dark room, and they all agree on only doing 3-year contracts? Where's the average MSP going to go?
Synchro?
Till they get bought up, but okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, so look, I think the average MSP now is a really great opportunity for us to start looking at what the future of MSP really needs to be. Because what do you use your RMM for, Shiva?
Patching.
That's it?
That's it.
Yeah. What,
I don't use it for anything else. I lean heavily on Intune.
Yeah.
I have TeamViewer for remote access, and this isn't 2018. This isn't 2019.
It's not. I'm not gonna say everything.
Dumb.
Almost everything.
You know what I call a 3-year relationship that you force a client to stay with? An abusive relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody needs that. And I think Kaseya needs to learn that, sure, it's going to be great for shareholders now, but
Is it?
I don't.
It's going to be great for the companies that own it and they spin it out onto the stock market, recoup some of their revenue, and then dump it again.
It's going to be great for the initial IPO, and then they'll sell if they're smart, and it'll sink just like Datto's done. If that's how they're going to treat people.
I think the strike price is $35 to buy shares on the open market. That's a really good deal for shareholders of Datto who got in and thought it was going to, the moon with diamond hands.
Mm-hmm.
This is good for them. I don't think it's good for the partner. I think a company of Datto scale should be by itself. I don't think they should be acquired by a Kaseya or anyone else. Let's talk about the elephant in the room here: antitrust, monopoly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I saw a comment earlier from Dom. He said if this were any other vertical, the Department of Justice would be intrigued by this one.
They don't know, probably. That's why. If they knew half of what goes on in the MSP space, yeah, they'd be interested. But they don't know. They have bigger shit to worry about. Sorry for the language.
It's okay. As long as we're not dropping any F or C bombs, I think we'll be all right today.
Challenge
because
accepted.
Let's be honest, I think, well, just don't do it again. I think MSPs are pissed off about this. Let's be honest. MSPs are pissed off about this, and I get it.
Who's learning, Matt? Matt, can we just get you a disguise so you can come on and we'll name you something else? It'll be easier.
So I agree with Matt. I think they are learning, the Department of Justice is learning, because they're starting to see how disorganized our whole space is as a whole. And that's not to say there aren't great companies.
I don't want to be Debbie Downer about the MSP space, but right. I will say that I think this is a really interesting time for the MSP to really start adopting SOPs or an SOP culture.
Hey, that's a great idea, man, because let's be honest, any company, the more processes you have outlined, the better you're going to operate.
Well, the less tool dependent you are. At that point, you can deal with any tool for the most part that's giving you that access to do what you have to do. But if you lean heavily on process, you can pivot faster, you can get leaner, and you can probably even make more money in the long run.
Very true. So let's talk about the future of MSP for a minute here. Let's pretend that MSPs or some MSPs decide to live in a world where they don't use a PSA. They don't use an RMM. And by PSA, I mean, ConnectWise, Autotask, like the big ones, right? You're going to talk with Salesforce.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you have the processes and the systems in place, it really doesn't matter what system you're using, right?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, you're going to need access to do certain things, but I think the problem is the typical MSP, and I could be talking about myself too, because what do I know? Relies too heavily on their vendors in the MSP space, right. And the MSP vendors give this illusion of support.
Well, and not only that, but more and more vendors are popping up every week, right? Every week another vendor or two pops up. and MSP become more and more reliant on tools to do things that we used to just do with a script.
Yeah,
You know?
but it's convenience. It's
is
MSP.
convenient.
Look, it's MSP. Hey, work on your business, not in your business, right? That's what we sell to our clients. So
It is,
vendors are
but-
selling us on it, so they get their MRR.
But how much convenience do we need to continue accepting before we realize we really have no idea what is happening behind the scenes? You know, the more and more tools we're using to manage this stuff, the more and more issue we're going to have with code breaches. We need to stop using so many tools, in my opinion.
How Matt wants to make scripting great again.
Yes, he does. I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard, man.
You know, you run a pair group, right?
Yeah.
I'd be interested for you, and you can message me online or do it in public, but poll your people. See how they feel about going to an SOP-based lifestyle versus a tool-based lifestyle.
I think I will. I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think that the sooner we get off tools and we stop allowing the tools to dictate how we run our companies, the sooner that MSP as a whole, or the space, the vertical, will mature, and we're going to start having better, more successful practices like security and things like that in place, because we're not going to be reliant on all these different tools to do our jobs for us.
I have a Rocket MSP challenge you should create. 5
Okay.
agent maximum.
So you're saying you can't deploy more than 5 things on an endpoint?
Correct.
Okay. I don't see a problem. How many things do you MSPs deploy these days?
Think about it.
I'm trying.
Okay, just off the top of my head. RMM,
Uh-huh.
AV,
Uh-huh.
DNS filter or umbrella,
Uh-huh.
auto elevate, threat locker. Those are a push because that could be one. And what else is there? Cloud Radial,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
password manager. Like,
But okay,
Here's the challenge.
But is a
Get people
password
to-
manager an agent?
don't
That's
know.
just but that's my, like, some of these things the end user really needs.
Huntress.
Right?
There you go.
That's good. Yeah, so you know, a few people here have kind of pointed out cybersecurity. There's so many cybersecurity tools. So if let's go back to my initial statement of let's just make scripting great again, right, Matt Lee? So how do we make scripting
Matt Lee
great
on behalf
again?
of Matt Lee and not his employer.
Right, Mr. Matt Lee, and not who is Matt Lee's employer?
I'm not going to say it on here because he's talking about himself.
Okay. Can you just send it to me in private chat so I know who I'm speaking with? Because
Yeah, fine, I'll tell you. I'm not leaking that shit out. I mean, everybody knows. I'm just not going to say it.
poor Matt. Matt works for, like, somewhere important sounding. Okay.
He works
So-
for a 3-letter agency.
Oh yeah.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, that's right. He works for the KGB.
Okay.
I'm kidding, Matt. Matt probably doesn't work for the KGB. All right. Anyway, so I've gotten off track. So how do we do cybersecurity with scripting? It can be done.
Yeah, I think you get the right products in place. I think there's the biggest farce in cybersecurity, I think, is the onion. The security onion is just a really fancy way of vendors saying, it's okay if you already paid for a product that does what we do. Pile us on and give us your money too.
Yeah, and I feel kind of the same way. The security onion is we can't do it all because that would require us to maybe know how to code better or do something more than we can or whatever, right?
Or plan better.
or
I
something.
mean, listen, if you do your homework and you look at your vendors and you see what their coverage is, where they overlap, where they don't, you can probably put together a very effective cybersecurity solution.
Yes. So, all right, you're leaving Autotask. You're concerned about, I don't know, dozens or hundreds of BCDRs. What do you do
Tom
with
Kirby
those?
just posted exactly what I'm doing.
I love it, Dom. Dom, you
It's easy.
are a really smart dude. I've been impressed by you for years. So I appreciate your comments, man. All right. So what do you do with your BCDRs?
I have no idea. I think maybe I go back to Veeam.
I hear there's this great
Veeam was-
company. It's called Unitrends. Have you heard of them?
Matt's coming on. Spicy, come on, Matt. Let's go. I got to hop on another call for 12:30, so I get 4 minutes with you.
I'm gonna hop on LinkedIn directly and send
I might even
Matt.
go to my Salesforce meeting 1 minute late for this. Shit.
Ooh.
Or it's like wrestling. Matt tags in, I tag out.
There we go. Oh, it won't let me message Matt because we're not friends.
Here, I will send it to him.
Thank you. And Ian just popped in, so I'm going to invite Ian to join the stream.
Matt, check your LinkedIn right now, sir. It is right there. What's up, Ian?
Tyro,
All right,
Hey, long time no see.
put Ian on the hotspot.
you got it, man.
Tyro, I think
just
that's
wanna-
why he was saying it.
Yeah, that was the joke. That was the joke. Ian, you just got here. I feel like Shiva and I have already kind of discussed our feelings on the Kaseya acquiring Datto thing. Can you just share? You're a Datto customer, right?
Yeah, started with Datto with the appliance. I'll call it the traditional Datto route, following the sort of Datto framework or their initial development cycle. Got the Datto backup appliances out there, and then about a year and a half ago, I'll have to check my notes, switched to Datto RMM from ConnectWise.
Okay. So, what does this acquisition mean to your business?
Lack of trust in Datto, or in Datto and Kaseya. Kaseya has a history of basically buying and taking profits from the company as opposed to reinvesting, from anecdotal evidence, but
So they're an
proof is in the pudding.
MSP.
So they're an MSP, but rolling them into the investors as opposed to the product, to the actual detriment of the product. That combined with the traditional Kaseya 3-year contract that, like, I just finished up with Connect Booster, which officially they're not acknowledging that they're being acquired by, but everything tastes like that. And if you use our product after so many days, you're automatically going to be on a 3-year contract, whether you like it or not, which I don't really think legally is enforceable.
But these guys got to exit, Ian. Like, I mean, a lot of these guys are going to their exit plan. Hey, Dom, I sent you the link on LinkedIn.
These guys have to exit, as in Datto has to exit.
I mean, these are businesses. These aren't kids,
True.
right?
Yeah.
They gotta make some money, get out.
They have to make
leave it
some
to
money.
the next guy to come and do their thing, right?
But
Man.
they also have to provide the same level of service that they've been providing to a reasonable extent.
Can you guys
Yeah.
hear me all right?
Yeah, we hear you,
Yeah.
Matt.
What up? Hey,
Yeah.
We
I'll
got
say,
Matt, we
I'll
got Dom. This is getting crazy up in here.
It sucks that I gotta drop in like a minute.
Me too. I walked for like 3 miles to go to the convention center. I'm taking an Uber next time. This was brutal. I'm a fat boy. Hey, here's what I'll say. I won't speak towards the Datto piece. I think you saw my point in comments. I do believe that may be what happened.
Make scripting great again.
Yeah,
Like a
but I
t-shirt.
do believe that I want to paint the picture of where we are heading, which is, we're heading towards a world where if you answer this one question as a company, and this won't speak towards the next few years, but if you started a company tomorrow, do you put metal in a closet or do you run a virtual machine at all? Or do you try to find some SaaS-based line of business application with single sign-on, some identity provider that's SaaS-based, whether that's Okta, God bless their hearts, or Microsoft, or whoever it may be, and use that as an extensibility point through scripting and automation? That's the exact same for every single customer that uses that vertical of software. That's the exact same for and everything now becomes a very repeatable process. That means that those companies at the very bottom, our MSPs supporting those companies, must now change to realize that they're going to have to support their client to change to that model or get beaten by someone more agile and closer. And what it means, to your point, Steve, of this makes scripting great again, is every script is just a GUID difference away of my GUID. That's it. There is no difference in the script. It's always the same, and it fails systemically and it works systemically. And so some of the challenges we're in is that MSPs should be focusing on how do I teach my clients to go towards what their competitors starting up down the street will be using. How do I get them away from a BCDR problem? How do I get them away from, right, or at least some change in that, the SaaS to SaaS extension or cloud to cloud extension? And I understand there's their own problems in cloud. And I think, Steve, I'd love to get on and do a long form with you on this because I think you and I see the world very similarly. So that's the only reason I wanted to jump in and say is I think where the puck is going changes this conversation quite drastically.
I appreciate it, Matt. And I would love to have you on sometime. I just sent you a LinkedIn.
Sounds great, brother. We'll connect. I appreciate y'all. Tom can go.
I got to jump in just a minute, but yeah, again, my own opinion.
Oh, wait, we're in the same meeting. We can both be late. It's okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah. My own opinions, et cetera, right? Nobody else's opinion.
Sure.
And I'm going to set the Kaseya thing aside, right?
Yeah,
Because
we're both trying to be very political.
I see no reason to really pick on them at this moment. But what I will say is what we've seen in any other vertical pretty much on the planet, right, is that major consolidation is not great, right? And maybe I will pick on Kaseya a little bit because Kaseya is doing just that, right? They're doing this major consolidation with their VC backing, and you start to see these big consolidations. It's the same reason that I got two choices for internet. Right? I can go with vendor A where I get 900 megabytes,
both of
megabits.
them make me want to blow my brains out at the end of the day.
Right, I get 900 megabits, but it's like 92% reliable on a good month, right?
Yeah,
Or I can get 2 megabit through literally a pair of copper wires. Or nowadays I get Starlink, right? So I get 3 choices for internet.
Love my Starlink. It's fantastic.
And it's the same exact reason, right? Is all these networks are bought up and consolidated into one central brand that may or may not have a peacock logo, right? So you're going to start to see the same issue that the choices that I have as a business owner to run my business are getting very limited. So what I think needs to happen is that these little smaller players, I'm not endorsing anyone, but I would say Halo is one that has caught my attention in recent times.
Yeah.
They have an opportunity here to make a power play. They can resist companies coming with really good acquisition offers. If they can resist that for the long haul, then they really can position themselves up against these bigger companies. But that's really all I got. I wanted to approach this from like an outward business perspective.
And I agree with one second, Ian. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I agree with your position wholeheartedly because, again, this is the perfect opportunity for some of these smaller, maybe lesser known players to become players, like major players. That's the unfortunate thing about consolidation is for the guys that are consolidating, all they're doing is making a place open up for a new company to fill, right?
Exactly. Thanks, guys. It was great. Maybe I'll come on with
Absolutely.
Matt. I got to jump to the same meeting he's in. So thanks
Love
for having
what you
me.
guys are
See you
talking
guys
about.
later.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Ian and Steve.
Take care, gentlemen.
Likewise to your consolidation thing and opening up places, following the trend of the last week and a half, IT Glue, I'm not going to say consolidating, I'm going to say falling on their face. IT Glue has been falling on their face, and just following a couple of the Slack threads on them, the number of, okay, I heard Hoodoo, who told me about Hoodoo, who this, what about that?
Oh gosh, yeah.
The amount of jumping ship and pulling contracts, and the fact that IT Glue, from what I've been following with a couple of people, can't even give a copy of people's contracts back to them. They don't even have them filed. They can't find them. is with the consolidation and the mess that they're creating in some of these cases. But I want to throw a bigger question to this is, while the MSP industry is largely unregulated, yeah, there's regulations being kind of pushed in away from insurance companies and compliance and all of that. But in a general sense, it's not like architects, lawyers, those areas which are insanely regulated. With this level of consolidation, at what point does consolidation create the word monopoly and do things like the SEC or whichever, not being in the US, knowing your regulators, trade commission, FTC, I guess it would be, get involved and go, whoa, this is too consolidating, this is too controlling, this is too much of a monopoly, and this is going to basically raise prices through the roof for the entire world with no benefit? It's a question which I don't have an answer for.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to have an answer for some of these things. So here's my question. Do you know of any companies that were acquired by Kaseya that still are beloved?
List of companies acquired by
I did the same
Kaseya.
Google search, man. I did the same Google search.
Let's see. Oh, hang on.
They own
Acquisitions by Canadian
Rapid
Kaseya.
Fire, Unitrends, IT Glue, Spanning, ID Agent, Graphis, and Rocket Cyber. There could be others, but those are the ones that...
Apparently, they have a history of doing, I want to call it silent acquisitions or whatever. We're acquiring you at the top level, but even your staff and your senior management don't know. It's your executive that knows. And yeah, looking at it, Rocket Cyber, I like them, and I spoke to them one day before the acquisition, and the owner said, oh, no chance of an acquisition. We want to control our product. We want to be exclusive. We want to be working with the partners, working with, literally one day before. So huge bad taste in my mouth. Rapid Fire has just always had, I don't know if it's just from Kaseya, but they've always had these term contracts that have been distasteful. So from that end, no. Unitrends, Spanning, haven't really played with. IT Glue, horrible bad taste in my mouth, even, well, mostly since the Kaseya acquisition, but even before then, so it may have been silent and it may have been siphoning off money, but it's basically management is puppets, and they're just basically saying what they're being told. They're going over their talking points. They're not actually developing. They're, in the case of IT Glue, they send out surveys, they send out feedback. They've got one of those roadmap development voting boards that's flat out ignored. And it's always kind of been a bit of a joke, which is the downfall, I guess, for Datto, because Datto has, yeah, they've had some billing issues that they haven't been able to figure out. They've been trying to integrate, not ASP, whatever billing system, and they've totally botched that several times. But at the same time, for the most part, their products work.
And that was what we discussed at the beginning. Like, I don't know many companies in the MSP space where overall they're generally like positively viewed, you know? So hey, look, it's 12:39. I actually anticipated this only being 30 minutes. So I just want to say one last thing, and then I want to wrap up. Datto is a company where I feel like they're similar to Apple. You know, you're paying the Datto tax just to work with Datto, but they have great products that just work. Okay.
And support. I'll say this for their support. Client needed to do a bare metal restore. Something went a little bit wonky during the restore. I dialed a toll-free number, and within one ring, I was on with a senior tech
And
who
I want to
stayed
say,
on through the process. That's something that's nice.
4 years ago, I think it might have been 5 now. I had a BCDR in a client, needed to do a restore, and I got it restored with support helping me, like holding my hand through the entire way, 1 a.m. on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Like they are phenomenal. So I hope for your sake, for your company's sake, and not just you, Ian, but everyone in the MSP space, I hope that Datto can continue to be the same great company that they have been. However, with Kaseya now being either a major shareholder or the owner of Datto, I have major concerns, and I think it's just because of the Kaseya, their history,
Kaseya effect.
their track record is not great. So, best of luck to all of you, and I look forward to seeing more comments as you guys watch this later on. I will do my best to reply to comments in the coming days and weeks, and I am. You've heard it here first. I'm pursuing Halo PSA to be on an upcoming podcast episode. Thanks, everybody. You all take care.